Hello, welcome back to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today is going to be a pretty special music theory breakdown. Today we're going to talk about Forget About Dre, one of the most influential songs that I feel like everyone on the planet must have heard at this point. So let's go ahead into our Logic session. Here we are in Logic Pro. This is my recreation of the instrumental. If you haven't seen these before, I do not play the original track. Again, you probably heard this. Once you hear the instrumental, you're probably going to want to go listen to the original anyway. So I encourage you to do that because, again, this has really helped to better explain that original song. So I'm going to play my instrumental here. It's not sonically perfect since I don't own the copyright to this. I don't really spend my time getting every sound perfect or the mix perfect, but I'm confident all of these notes are correct, and it'll allow us to talk about the chords, the scale, the melodies, and here we go. Here comes the guitar solo. Cool. So hopefully that was recognizable to you. Again, the sounds aren't totally accurate, but it's close enough. I like this a lot. I may have to try my hands at a Forget About Dre remix, some sort of EDM remix. Maybe not. I know there's that Caked Up one. Wherever did those guys go? Just joking. If you guys see this, what up? So this song is in the key of G minor. G minor has two black keys. They are B flat and E flat. That means the notes in G minor are G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, and G. That sounds like this. Cool. Again, another name for that is G natural minor. In some of my other breakdowns, I talk about like harmonic minor and some variations to this key, but this song we have just general natural minor. The chord progression is basically involving two chords. It's the one chord, a G minor, going to a major 6 chord. That's an E flat major built on that note. It has the notes E flat, G, and B flat, and then back to the one chord. On the piano with the same rhythm, it sounds like this. Nice. Now, voicing wise, I actually voice the chords slightly different, and I believe Dr. Dre does as well. I try to match it up as well as I can, but I'm doing these all by ear, which is really good practice. Even if you guys don't want to make YouTube videos like this, it's a really good idea to try to recreate note for note songs that you really like. I guarantee it will help you to further discover things about the song that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise without doing that. And it definitely helps us to develop some chops that we can call upon when we're producing music ourselves. So let's start with the violins. The violins are playing those chords. Again, it's a G minor. Now this G minor is in what we call first inversion, meaning the G is on top and not on the bottom. But because we have the bass line, that doesn't really matter. The voicing is B flat, D up to G. Then basically the only one note changes. The D goes up to an E flat. That makes this chord the E flat major, and then it basically goes back. The violins on their own sound like this. One side note to talk about, I don't have the delay totally right. It's essentially an eighth note delay that's really subtle on the violins in the song. But what's really cool about it and common from this era of music is because they weren't working with like all the same MIDI sync functions that we have nowadays, where all of our tempos are able to be perfect. A lot of times people were tapping delay tempos in to set a delay, or perhaps changing this delay speed by ear. So I've been at 237 milliseconds. I believe true eighth note's about 230 milliseconds. So it's a little bit behind, which goes a long way to give the song a little bit of not perfect straight. There's a little bit of swing going on. Cool. Then let's talk about, it's funny, that's my Razor default subs called Punch in the Balls. I'll rename that sub. It's always a funny name, and I love the sound of that sub. So the notes we have there are starting on G, our one chord. We're kind of doing an arpeggio here, G, D, up to A. That's the second note in the scale. So we're going like 1, 5, up an octave to the next 2, 3, back to 2. So A, B flat, A. Then we come down to E flat. That makes sense because the chord in this measure is the E flat. And then finally we have this walking down bass line. What's kind of cool about this is it's literally an arpeggio of the G minor chord. So G minor has G, B flat, and D. The bass is going D down to B flat. So all of these notes, aside from the A, are literally chord tones, meaning in the actual chords the violins are playing. But this one A is not, it is in the key of G minor. So in this moment, we basically get the sound of what would be called a minor 9 chord, because in jazz theory, the second note, we call it a ninth, the harmony. I think I've talked about those. If you see my like jazz chord theory video, I think I talk about the extended harmonies. Cool. Moving along, before we get to the main lead, let's look at our drums. Pretty straightforward. It's a 4-measure pattern that essentially repeats. We get this hi-hat fill in the beginning, which is again not totally on the grid. That really helped me to match this kind of sound. Fundamentally, it's a 16th note or an 8th note on the second quarter note, or third quarter note, 1, 2, 3, and then the next two 16th notes, and then the following 8th. That's like a half measure fill into the main drums. And then from the kick drum, we have a pretty standard syncopated rhythm here. It's the kick on the 1, and then the 6th 8th note, also known as a dotted quarter note and an 8th note. The snare is on beat 3, means this beat is halftime. We're at 134 beats per minute. Should have mentioned that before. And then finally we have this cymbal pattern, which is basically doing an 8th note. It has the pattern where it starts out just doing 1 for the first half note, then we get steady 8th notes. We get the same fill that we had coming in, the 8th note followed by 2/16. This becomes kind of a rhythmic theme in the song. Then we get all 4 or 5 8th notes in a row. The same rhythmic phrase that I said was important, slightly earlier this time, but it's actually the same rhythm that we get as from the fill before. Let's watch all of this go by while we hear it. Cool. Finally, there's one other layer. I'll play that with our drums. It's basically doubling up that fill that happens at the end. It's this I'm using an Arturia like CZ synth with sort of like a synthesized percussive clap sound. Sounds like that, and all together we get this. And that clap is kind of cool because it comes in at the end of every 4. Nice. Let's go to the melody. Melody is pretty straightforward. It's going climbing up our scale. It's going 1, 2, 3 from our scale, G, A, B flat, skipping our 4, C, going straight to the 5, up to D, and then a 6, E flat. That happens in the measure when, or I guess the E flat chord actually technically happens there. But we go up to E flat and then back to D. We get like steady quarter notes in the beginning, and then we're on the second quarter note 2 and 4 of the second measure. This melody almost repeats exactly. The first 3 notes are the same, but instead of walking up from D to E flat, that reverses, goes straight to E flat, and then we come down to D, and we hit B flat, which again is in the chord, although we don't get that the first phrase. Let's listen to that while we see it go by. Cool. So that basically covers the instrumental. Now, the beat is obviously an amazing, amazing instrumental. I remember, like, I still love this song. I think it's like one of the best songs in this genre really ever made. Still has so much energy, and part of that's the instrumental. The mix is great, but also you have one of the best, or if not the best, like hip hop producer ever with Eminem, and that just is quite the collaboration. So obviously this instrumental is, only part of the hit. It's also the amazing bars and amazing verses that both of them have. Really, really funny music video too. If you haven't seen it, you should go check that out. I basically consolidated the beat because I'm not playing the verses. I went to the guitar solo, or the electric guitar kind of sound earlier. This happens sort of in the second half of Eminem's verse when he says, and he stand next to the burned down house, like matches in his hand, something like that. Maybe you recall that lyric. And what's cool about this is almost like the exact same thing as the bass line that I already showed you. If we look at those notes, let's look at them on top of each other. It's almost the same. The difference is that in the solo, instead of holding the B flat, we go back between A and B flat, back to A. But besides that, it's literally like the same thing as the bass line. The notes are held out. We get an extra attack here. Besides that, it's the same. That goes a long way. So from a music theory standpoint, if we went back to like classical music theory, we would talk about theme development. So theme is kind of like an idea, a musical idea, a group of notes that when we hear it, we associate with the song. And this would be a good example of theme development, where like we've already heard this, we're comfortable with it. The song, we've heard some amazing verses, it's catchy, it's got us dancing, and then finally we get the same thing that we're already familiar with. It's developed slightly, so these extra notes. It's an electric guitar that's up front. It's distorted, gives it some edge, and really like a cool moment in the song. I'll play that so we can hear it and watch it go by. I know my beat isn't nearly as like good of a mix or the right instruments even, but like that just shows what a really cool instrumental this is. One of the hardest things is you understand the software you're writing music with, as you understand maybe the instrument you play. But when it comes to writing music, those of you that have written music for a while will relate to this, but there's this inclination to want to do more and more and to make something complicated. But a lot of times, like the truly brilliant pieces of music sort of say a lot with very little words or like little notes. So this beat is very, very simple, but at the same time, it's like everything is right where it needs to be. There's just enough interest, just enough edge to it. It's truly an epic work. And Dr. Dre, if you ever see this, you have truly like changed the world with your music. And I think like that's obviously, you probably know that, but anyway, can't hurt. It probably feels good every time you hear that. So anyway, that'll be it for today. I'm going to play the instrumental one more time. Some of you probably want to hear that, and then we'll call it a day. Here we go. Here is the rendition of Forget About Dre. All that MIDI. And our guitar solo. Nice. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, I love this song. If you can't tell, I wish I could, even if I like knew the words, I don't have the ability to say them on time. I've tried. It's such an amazing song. So hopefully you enjoy this song, and hopefully you found this helpful to better understand some music theory. Again, it doesn't have to be the most complicated group of notes to make for like an incredible instrumental. And just a little bit of knowledge of theory can go a long way. So if you're curious about learning some more music theory, I will try to keep helping you with that each week. And if you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel, maybe hit the bell for some notifications. If you really want to dive into music theory, I'll link to my textbook below. And hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers, and keep making music.